5-minute open statements from each. Mr. Batman can go first, and then open discussion for an hour or longer if necessary. So without further ado, I guess we can get the participants to introduce themselves and then proceed into the debate. Mr. Batman?
All right. Well, thank you very much. I am Mr. Batman. I am a proclaimer of the Messiah and of a destroyer of false worldviews. I believe that the Bible is true and correct right from the very first verse, where it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth," and that is a scientific equation, right to the very last word of the Revelation, where it says, "Amen," and everything in between. As a matter of fact, I'm so certain of that, I don't just say I believe the Bible, I say that I know the Bible, because knowledge is a justified, true belief. And in order to know anything, you have to have a relationship with the one who knows everything, or you could be wrong. Now, one of the things that I sincerely enjoy is science and studying the Bible. Those things, sometimes people think that they don't go together, but you cannot actually do science without the God of the Bible. Because in order to do science, you're going to have certain natural laws, like laws of gravity, laws of magnetism, laws of thermodynamics, laws of cause and effect, laws of logic, laws of mathematics. These things require an eternal, universal, and unchanging lawgiver God. Not to mention time, space, and matter. And time, space, and matter, by definition, since it had a beginning, requires a timeless, spaceless, immaterial, and again, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving, living, logical lawgiver Elohim. That is uniquely the God of the Bible. Not only do you need to have the God of the Bible for science and the scientific method, you have to have God to actually explain where time, space, and matter comes from, and you have to have God in order to explain where the laws of nature that dictate where time, space, and matter comes from. But you also have to have the God of the Bible to explain where morality comes from. Because if man makes morality as he goes along, then anything can be acceptable. It might be non-acceptable to be a pedophile today, but if man makes morality, then he can make a change to that morality. That would be called a convention. And he could change that moral statement to be okay to be a pedophile tomorrow. As a matter of fact, we're already seeing that in our culture today, where some people are saying that, since it's okay for homosexuals to be homosexuals, well, they were born that way, and so were pedophiles. Pedophiles were born that way as well. Nope. Those are sexual perverts, and as time elapses and allows, we will go into the actual scientific definition of what a pervert happens to be. Now, once again, if you'd like to find out more about me, you can visit my website at mrbatman.com. That's where I teach science and apologetics for all ages. I have many different videos on there, Sunday school lessons, science videos, and we just recently started a series on the book of the Revelation. Yeah, and that's very important, especially in today's time, as we grow closer and closer to our Messiah's return. That's about 4 minutes, and I go ahead and relinquish the rest of my time.
Thank you very much. Tom, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, 4 zeros.
All right, I'm an atheist, by which I mean I believe there's no reasons to believe in a God. All of the evidence indicates not God in every conceivable way. God explains absolutely nothing, is grounds for absolutely nothing, and fails in every conceivable respect as a hypothesis in every academic field. That's why in every academic field, the God hypothesis is rejected by the consensus in about pretty much everything. Cosmology and physics reject the idea that God had anything to do with the Big Bang. Reference the Sean Carroll debate with William Lane Craig, where he explicitly says that. In neurology, cognitive science, and psychology, the consensus is there is no free will. There is no culpability that we have. We're all determined by physical forces. Reference the interview with Julian Mussolino and Seth Andrews, where they explicitly talk about that. The consensus in geology, cosmology, and biology that evolution happened. The world is 13, or the Earth is like 4.8 billion, and the universe is like 13.8 billion years old. And the world was not created in 6 days. God had nothing to do with it. Abiogenesis is the consensus in biology. Genetic mutation and evolution are how we got our diversity of species. It had nothing to do with a God whatsoever. Every single argument that is put forth for a God is rejected by the consensus. And so if you want to be wrong consistently, just be a theist, and then you'll essentially get the wrong answer every time consistently. So I am an atheist because that is the only supported reasonable position that has any evidential basis whatsoever, and there is no evidence of a God, and you don't need a God for morality, you don't need God for knowledge. You can have those perfectly fine without them, which is why the consensus reject them, because they don't even work as a basis. I will conclude there.
All right, thank you very much. And at this point, if you two want to go into open discussion, and keep it respectful and not overtalk each other too much, that would be great.
Sure. So, Mr. Batman, you said that in order to know anything, you need a relationship with the Creator. Is that correct? Can you hear me?
He's muted right now. So if you could unmute yourself, Mr. Batman.
Sorry about that. I clicked the wrong button. My apologies. Yes, sir.
Okay.
In order to know anything at all, you must have a relationship with the Creator.
So does that mean you have to be
who
like
knows everything that there is to know?
So that means you have to like be a believing Christian, or does everyone have a relationship with the Creator automatically?
Everybody has a relationship with the Creator automatically. Whether you acknowledge that relationship or not is irrelevant.
So you can know things without presupposing a God because you automatically have a relationship with the Creator.
Correct.
So I can know everything without ever presupposing a God. I can have an entire basis of science and epistemology without ever presupposing a God whatsoever. Is that correct?
Yes, but you couldn't explain it. See, that's the problem, sir. Even in order to be able to make simple statements, hang on a second. Even in order to be able to make simple statements like one finger plus one more finger is always and only two fingers. Would you agree, sir, that you know that statement to be true?
Yes.
Great. So in that scenario, if you're going to say you know that to be true, you could not be wrong about it. That means something on the other side of the universe could not prove you wrong about that. That's the only way it can be knowledge. Knowledge is a justified true belief. So either one of two statements has to be true. Either A, you have to know all things, and I know that ain't the case. Or B, you have to have a relationship with the one who does know all things. So you could not be wrong about that particular simple statement.
So you define knowledge as having absolute certainty, and you can't have knowledge without absolute certainty?
Knowledge is a justified, true belief.
Right.
If I was to tell you, sir, that the speed limit outside of my house was 35 miles an hour, and then I immediately turned to you and I said, but I could be wrong. Do I know it?
Yes, you could still know it.
Really?
Yes.
How if I could be wrong, how could I say that I know it? What is your definition of knowledge?
Justified true belief. Nowhere in that definition includes certainty.
Okay, sir. Well, wait a minute. Justification is your line of chain of evidence. Yes. So my chain of evidence, hang on a second, sir. I didn't interrupt you. Please don't interrupt me. Once again, sir, justification is your chain of evidence to a truth statement. Truth is that which comports with reality. Truth is that which is real. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Okay, great. So in order for you to know it, it must be true. And it must be observably true. And you have a chain of justification to that truth statement. That's why you can trust the truth bearer. That's why it's a justified true belief. Now, once again, if you say you could be wrong, then you don't know it. It is simply a belief system at that point.
How does that follow?
You could say that there's pink unicorns on the dark side of the moon pooping out laws of logic, but you don't know that. That's simply a belief of yours. In order for you to know it, you would have to have a chain of justification, a chain of evidence, and it would have to be true.
Yes. So in philosophy, you need a justification for your belief. Nowhere does it require certainty. So, for example, I have a justification that the Earth is round. There's lots of empirical evidence. Are we certain that the Earth is round? Well, no. We could be in the Matrix. Do I still have knowledge? Well, yes. It's true that the Earth is round, even though it isn't certain. So I still have knowledge the Earth is round, even though I don't have certainty. You do not need certainty for knowledge.
Actually, sir, if you don't have certainty, what you have is a belief. But
Well,
wait a minute.
wait,
You said you had evidence.
Batman, remember, you defined a justified true belief as knowledge, right? You agree with that?
Justified true belief, sir.
Right.
Is it true that the Earth is round?
Wait. So
is it true that the
Batman,
Earth
I'm
is
leading,
round,
I'm
sir?
leading to this. So if
yes, is it true that the Earth is round?
Yes, it is.
Sir?
I'm getting there. So
great.
Wait,
then
Batman,
in order for it to
you're
be
interrupting.
true, then it's knowledge.
Batman, you're
but
interrupting.
if you don't know it's true, it's not knowledge.
Stop interrupting. So if knowledge is a justified true belief, then you need three things. You need to have a belief. So I believe the world is round. You need to have a justification. I have empirical evidence the world is round, and it needs to be true that the world is round, and it is true that the world is round. Now, the empirical evidence doesn't give us certainty. We don't need certainty. It only needs to be true with 100% certainty. So if it's true, and we have some justification, even if the justification isn't perfect, you still have knowledge. So empirical evidence that the world is round, like we can go into space and look at it, even though it doesn't provide certainty, it still gives us knowledge because it is a justification. Nowhere in the definition you gave does it require certainty to have a justification, or anywhere in philosophy. So it isn't required to have certainty to knowledge. You seem to be mistaken in that assumption.
Sir, is truth certain? Is truth absolutely true?
Yes, truth is absolutely true.
Okay, then that's certainty right there, sir. In order to have a statement that is true, that is certainty right there. If it's not absolutely true, and you're not certain that it's absolutely true, you don't have knowledge. You simply have a belief.
Those are two different things.
In order for I'm sorry, sir, one moment, please wait. In order for you to make this claim that you have evidence, this your justification would be your evidence. In order to have evidence, you have to have time, space, and matter. Where does time, space, and matter come from, and how do you know that?
Well, it's a different topic, so I want to stay on just the justified true belief topic. So you can have a justification that isn't certain. So there's no, like, truth has to be true, obviously.
Is it true?
Yes, it has to be true. So I literally
so
just
then
said
that would be certain.
Wait, Batman, stop interrupting. Stop interrupting, Batman. So obviously something has to be true, but something can be true if you never know it. Like, it could be true that there are 10 billion ice crystals.
And you don't know it, you just believe it.
Batman, stop interrupting. So things can be true without us knowing them.
Sir, we're going to disagree. We're going to agree to disagree on this because
stop interrupting. So
yeah, you're going to have to stop interrupting, Mr. Batman.
There are facts in the universe that are true that we don't know. Like, for example, there were stars or galaxies before we discovered them. It was true.
Let me know when he's done.
It was true that there were galaxies before we knew there were galaxies. So we can have a justified true belief that there are more galaxies that we haven't discovered yet. So we have a justified belief that there are more galaxies out there that we haven't seen yet. And it's true that there are more galaxies out there we haven't seen yet, even though we don't have certainty. So we still have knowledge that there are more galaxies out there, even without certainty. So your own definition seems to be a misunderstanding of how knowledge works. So to have a justification does not require certainty, even though truth requires it to be true. You don't need to know it with certainty to have knowledge.
Sir, you're ignorant of the topic. So we're going to agree to disagree. You don't know what truth is. You don't know what knowledge is. So now we need to move on to evidence. You're making all these evidentiary claims. Does evidence exist inside of time, space, and matter? And if so, where does time, space, and matter come from, and how do you know that?
Well, I'm not ready to move on to that because if you don't know what knowledge or truth is, then you kind of have a problem.
I do know what knowledge and truth is, sir, and you don't seem to. So let's agree to disagree, and let's move on to the evidence.
I'm going to have to.
You don't seem to know what truth is. I do.
Batman,
now,
we're going to have to go over this.
Once again, where does time, space, and matter come from, and how do you know it?
No, we're going to stay on the knowledge claim because that was your first claim, and so that's the one we're going to address. Can we have knowledge?
Okay, well, I'll just wait till you're done.
Okay, can we have knowledge that there are other galaxies?
Let me know when you're finished rambling because you don't know that it's true that you're muted right now.
It's a question. Can we have knowledge?
Do you know that you're muted right now?
Can we have knowledge that there are?
Do you know
other
that
galaxies?
I can't hear you right now?
This debate isn't going to work if you're meeting the opponent.
Really?
So.
Is it true? Do you know that to be the case? Because knowledge is a justified true belief. Now, if he doesn't want to believe that, I'm fine that he doesn't believe what knowledge is. He doesn't know what knowledge is. That's fine. Let's move on. If he doesn't want to move on, then the debate is over because he can't justify his position. He has no evidence. Now, he also mentioned all kinds of things: evidence, physics, neurology, free will, geology, age of the earth, abiogenesis, evolution. We've got all kinds of things we can talk about. But wait a minute. He doesn't know any of these things. He has all these beliefs because in order for his beliefs to be valid, they must be true. And truth is certainty. Now, truth is being comports with reality. Comporting with reality is being certain.
Can we like mute him so
now,
he can
if you're
stop
not certain,
filibustering?
then you don't know it to be true. You simply believe it.
So,
now, Mr.
he's
TJump, what
filibustering.
would be
Can
your
we
evidence
stop him?
in time, space, and matter? Where does time, space, and matter come from, and how do you know that?
No, Batman, I'm not going to let you evade after I've destroyed you because you don't know what knowledge and
Okay,
truth
so you
is.
haven't destroyed anything.
You're
You've also
interrupting.
made
Batman,
mention
you're interrupting.
that you
Batman,
don't know
interrupting.
anything to be
Batman,
true. You simply
Batman,
believe
interrupting.
it.
Mr. Batman.
So, in philosophy, the definition of knowledge is a justified true belief, and a justification.
I'm happy to
stop
agree
interrupting.
to disagree,
stop,
sir.
Stop interrupting.
You don't know what
Stop-
truth
stop
is. You don't know what.
interrupting. Okay, so in philosophy, a justified true belief is knowledge, and to have a justification, all you need is some support for the truth. You don't need certainty at all, and this is very easy to prove, as I did with my example. We can know there are other galaxies out there, even if we're not looking at them. So we can know the moon is there.
How do you know that there's
Batman,
other galaxies
Batman,
out there if you
Batman,
haven't observed
Batman,
them?
Batman.
Is it true that there's
Stop
other
interrupting.
galaxies out
Batman,
there?
you're interrupting again.
How do you know that, sir?
Interrupting again.
You don't know that. That's
Batman.
simply a.
Okay. So we can know that there are other galaxies out there, just like we can know the moon is there, even though we're not looking at it, because we have evidence. We've seen it, we've interacted with it, we've sent things there. We have empirical evidence that it exists, independent of our mind, and so we can have knowledge that it exists, even without certainty. So it is true, it's absolutely true that the moon exists, even if we can't have certainty of it. So truth exists independent of knowledge. They're two separate things. The truth of God existing is true or false, regardless of if anybody knows it. So it was true before any humans existed, or it was false before any humans existed. And you don't need to know it for it to be true. So the truth is true, regardless of whether or not it's known. Those are two separate things. This is very easy to prove, Mr. Batman. Do you not understand this?
Proof? Do you know about what proof is, sir? Do you have knowledge of proof? No, you don't. You have a belief.
Could you address
Your belief is irrelevant, sir. Now you're talking over me.
Well,
now,
I'd like
once
you to
again,
address
sir,
my point if you
we're
could.
going to have to agree to disagree, and we're going to have to move on, sir, because your interpretation of evidence, your interpretation of truth and knowledge and what is wisdom, truth, wisdom, and knowledge is inadequate.
Okay,
it doesn't
could you
work
show it
in the real world in real time.
Could you show that?
Science doesn't work on your identity, your particular
could you show that?
definition
So could you show
of knowledge?
Could you
Science doesn't say, well, because we see these galaxies, we know that there's other galaxies out there. No, we can believe that, but until you can observe it, test it, repeat it, you don't know it, sir. Until you know it to be true, and truth is absolutely true or it's absolutely false, then you don't know it. You simply believe it. And you can believe that there's pink unicorns on the dark side of the moon pooping out laws of logic. I really don't care. But once again, sir, now we're talking about all kinds of evidence. You made all kinds of evidentiary claims. I would like for you to back up your evidentiary claims. You said that if you wanted to be wrong, then be a theist. Okay, great. Where does evidence come from for that claim, sir? Evidence is time, space, and matter that backs up the claim that you just made. Do you know that that claim you just made is true? And can you back it up with evidence, sir? Where does time, space, and matter come from so you can have evidence to back up your claim
Batman,
about,
let's
say, physics, neurology, free will, geology, age of the earth, abiogenesis?
Could you shorten your question
a belief system all its own. Now, hang on a second, sir. You were talking for 5 minutes.
I definitely was not.
Going. How about abiogenesis? So you want to talk about that?
No, I want you to answer my question that I asked previously. So you keep making
Have
this
a nice
claim.
Day, sir.
You keep making.
Since you're not going to move on, I will.
No. So
Mr. Batman, could you shorten your question, Tim?
So again,
no, he's not willing to move on to the next topic. He doesn't want to agree that he doesn't understand
you made a claim.
What truth
Batman,
and
you made a claim.
Is.
Batman, you made a claim.
Knowledge is a justified true belief.
Could you stop interrupting?
Truth is certainty. If it's not certain, then you don't know it. If I was to tell you that the little road outside my apartment here, the speed limit is 35 miles an hour, and then I immediately turn to you and say, but I could be wrong, do I know it? No, I don't know it. I simply believe it. So he's trying to conflate beliefs with knowledge. I'm not going to allow him to do that. Now, if he's going to do that, then we need to justify what evidence is. What is evidence? All evidence for any claim you're going to make exists inside of time, space, and matter. So, Mr. TJump, where does time, space, and matter come from so you can have any evidence for any claim that you're going to make whatsoever?
No, you still need to answer my question. Like, you made a claim that my justification...
No, sir, I don't.
Stop
I've already
interrupting. Stop
answered.
interrupting. So you made a claim that my definition of knowledge was insufficient to work for science. You need to prove that claim. So I demonstrated it was sufficient for science. In fact, it has a name in science. It's called fallibilism. Fallibilism is the philosophical position that knowledge does not require certainty. Literally, it's proving you wrong. This position, which is the consensus in philosophy and in science of pretty much anyone who knows anything about the field, proves you wrong because it's literally the opposite of what you just said. So your definitions are objectively incorrect based off of how those words are used in philosophy. So if you want to claim that my definition of knowledge and truth is insufficient, you need to demonstrate how. So I made a claim. I can know the moon is there. I don't need certainty for it. You need to now show how I don't have knowledge the moon is there, or how my definition is insufficient to support your ridiculous assertion that the definition that everyone in science and philosophy use for knowledge is incorrect.
That's not knowledge. Oh, there we go. Once again.
You need to, you can't just assert it. You go like, how is that
whatever you want,
knowledge?
Mr. TJump, but your belief is irrelevant to
Batman,
the
how?
truth.
You said
the
it's not
truth
knowledge.
Is
Explain.
It requires evidence.
Explain.
So now we need to move on to what is evidence.
Batman, you need to explain.
Evidence exists within inside of time, space, and matter for whatever claim it is you're trying to make, whether it be physics, neurology, free will, geology, age of the earth, abiogenesis, or evolution. For any evidence, for any claim you're going to make, that evidence exists inside of time, space, and matter. So where does time, space, and matter come from so you can make these evidence claims, sir?
Emergent space-time in physics, but I'd still like you. I asked you a question, which was
emergent space-time.
Wait! Don't interrupt, Batman. So I asked you a question, like, how is my definition of knowledge that is used in everywhere in philosophy and science insufficient? And you said it's not knowledge. That's a claim, but you need to.
I'm sorry, sir.
Wait.
Where does
Batman, don't interrupt.
space-time
don't
come from,
interrupt,
and
Batman.
have we ever observed that?
Batman, you're interrupting. So I asked you a question. How is my definition of justification of knowledge that everyone in science and philosophy uses incorrect?
Justified true beliefs, sir. Where have we ever observed emergent
interrupting? So I asked you a question.
Systems, sir.
Batman,
This is
interrupting.
why.
So I asked you a question.
Batman.
I asked you a question. How is my definition of justification of knowledge?
This is why you conflate beliefs.
Batman. So, could you leave him muted for like 5 minutes? Because if we can just ask the audience, that's fine. So, Batman, you asked a question. You stated that my definition of knowledge and justification was insufficient. I then gave my definitions of knowledge and justification as they are used in science and philosophy, and you said that's not knowledge. I mean, that's a great claim, but you got to explain to me how it's not knowledge for it to be meaningful. You can't just say it's not knowledge. You got to like explain it. How do I not have knowledge that the moon exists, even though I cannot see it?
Emergent space-time. Isn't that just a lovely little fantasy that doesn't exist in the real world in real time? This is why you conflate knowledge with beliefs. Because you're going to say you know that time, space, and matter comes from emergent space-time when you've never observed it, it's not true, and you don't have any chain of evidence to that effect. Why? Because you don't know it. That's why you have a problem with your conflation issue, sir. Where does time, space, and matter come from so you can have any evidence for anything whatsoever? And again, sir, I don't want your simple religious dogmatic belief system of emergent space-time. I want science, sir. Science is observable, testable, and repeatable. Go.
Absolutely. So yeah, science, as I mentioned before, defines knowledge as justification, not certainty. So sir, I'm using science. You're
emergent
not.
Space-time is now the topic. Can you stay on topic, please, sir?
Don't
worry, I'm a special needs
teacher.
I can help you with that.
Remember, you asked for scientific justification, and the scientific justification is that So the scientific
Time, sir. That's the topic.
Batman. So you asked for how is my justification for emergent spacetime, and I said science is, because science defines knowledge not as certainty. You do not need certainty for knowledge.
I'm sorry, sir. Again, knowledge is certainty,
interrupting
and this is your problem.
Batman,
you're not certain about emergent spacetime.
Mr. Batman, you gotta stop interrupting.
So
he conflates knowledge.
Still interrupting. So
he can say what he says with unabashed just pride. I mean, he's proud of his ignorance. That's just stupidity at its finest.
Batman,
if you can say that I don't have to have something to be true to know it, then you can make any statement you like and say that is true. Just like emergent spacetime. He just said emergent spacetime is true.
Batman, you said you were the destroyer of false worldviews, right?
You don't know that because it's not justified, it's not true, and you have no evidence to back it up.
Batman,
next.
Batman, you said you were the destroyer of false worldviews, right? So I'm trying to give you the worldview here that says you're just obviously wrong, and so you need to show how this worldview, which you say is wrong, is actually wrong.
In order for me to be obviously wrong, you'd have to have a chain of evidence.
Batman,
where does time, space, and matter come from? So you can show me a chain of evidence that I'm wrong.
Batman. So you made a claim that you were the destroyer of worldviews. Here is the predominant worldview.
I am, sir.
Batman,
so where does time, space, and...
Batman. Here is the predominant worldview in science and philosophy. It's called fallibilism. Fallibilism is the position that you can have knowledge without certainty. So you need to destroy that worldview. So I gave you some knowledge that I have without certainty. The moon exists. You need to show how this is wrong in order to destroy the scientific philosophical worldview of everyone who works in the field. So show me how this definition of knowledge that everyone in science and philosophy uses is wrong. Go.
Oh, there we go. Now we're back on the line. Sir, not only do you have to have time, space, and matter for any evidentiary chain that you're going to make, but you also have to have laws of nature, which dictates how the physical world works, like laws of cause and effect, laws of physics, laws of chemistry, biology, laws of mathematics. Now, in order for you to give me this chain of evidence for this emergent space-time, which is your dogmatic religious belief system, which I'm not grabbing onto, sir, and you don't know that to be true, and you conflate truth and belief system. You want to believe it? I don't give a crap. The fact of the matter is, sir, it's not true. And if it was true, you'd be able to show me some evidence to that effect. It would be scientifically demonstratable.
I did.
And it's not.
I did.
So where do laws of physics come from so you can have time, space, and matter, so you can show me a chain of evidence?
They're part of reality, but again, you need to still answer the question.
I'm sorry, sir. No, they're not just part of reality. That doesn't tell you where they come from.
You're interrupting again, Mr. Batman.
So again, you
gotta
need
give him more than 3 seconds.
You need to actually address the point here. So you keep saying that my worldview is wrong. I've presented you my worldview, and you cannot show it's wrong. You just keep evading. You keep saying I'm not going to answer that. So you're admitting that my worldview is better than yours because you can't show it's wrong. You just assert it's wrong. You keep saying it's not knowledge. Well, I mean that isn't showing my worldview is wrong. That's just showing you're ignorant of my worldview. So you need to actually address the position to show it's wrong. You can't just assert it's wrong. That's not how arguments work, Mr. Batman. So there's this position called fallibilism, the consensus in every academic field who say you're ridiculous. And they say you can have knowledge without certainty, just like I did. And I explained why. Explain how I was wrong. Explain where the problem is in my definition of knowledge. You have to do that or else you're admitting I'm right.
Of knowledge is irrelevant. Your definition of knowledge is inadequate.
Show how. Yes, how? I want to know how.
Your definition of knowledge
Tell me how.
It's completely fabricated.
Tell me how. Tell me how it's wrong.
Once again, sir, to say that these are part of reality, that these laws of nature are just simply part of reality, does not answer the question that was posed to you. The question, as stated, sir, is what causes, because again, we're going to use the law of cause and effect. I'm going to frame these questions in the way of cause and effect relationship.
There is no law of cause and effect.
What causes these laws of physics to exist? These laws of cause and effect, these laws of mathematics, logic, biology, chemistry. What causes these laws of nature to exist? Cosmological constants. What causes them to exist? what causes them not to change over time in an ever-changing world. Oh, yeah, that's another one of these pesky laws that never changes over time. It's called the law of entropy, that everything decays over time. So, again, what causes them not to change over time? And what's going to cause them to be here again tomorrow so you can make the same stupid statements one more time, sir? Go ahead, answer that one.
Well, it's reality. Reality is what causes them to exist.
Yes, reality does not answer the question, sir.
Yes, it does.
What about reality causes these laws to exist, causes them not to change, and causes them to be here tomorrow?
Because reality is reality. That's how.
I'm sorry, sir. That's circular. That's viciously circular reasoning. You know,
No.
it's like saying, well, it just is that it is. You know what, sir? That doesn't answer the question. What causes them to be here? What causes them not to change, and what causes them to be here tomorrow so you can make the same stupid claim one more time?
Because reality is reality. That is the law of identity. So it's not.
Is that all you got, sir?
So
it's very circular.
So
it's viciously
Batman,
circular.
Stop interrupting.
Which means you cannot know anything out of your vicious
Batman.
circularity. Do you not see a problem with that? It's like saying, well, I sense that my reasoning is correct, and I reason that my senses are correct.
You're interrupting, Batman.
Can you know anything outside of that vicious circle?
Batman,
Why, no, sir, you cannot. So that's kind of...
Okay, so reality is reality, and reality cannot not be reality. That means reality has the laws that are unchanging right there. That's all you need. And laws of physics do change. We know that the law of gravity was repulsive in the early universe, so laws of physics do change. That's not a problem. But reality can never not be reality. So logic and math are all grounded in reality and nothing more. It's pretty simple, but you still have failed to show that my definition of knowledge is incorrect. So, I mean, I'll just assume that you can't because you're just ignorant of the field. And so my definition stands, and you can have knowledge without certainty, proving your entire position wrong. Just fallibilism wins.
So in other words, sir, you don't know where these laws come from. You don't know why they don't change over time, and you don't know why they're going to be here tomorrow. Is that correct?
No, I answered that. So reality.
No, sir, you didn't. You said they're just reality. That doesn't answer the question.
Let me answer it
So
again.
once again, sir, you don't know what causes these laws of nature, these cosmological constants to exist. You don't know what causes them not to change over time in an ever-changing world that suffers from the second law of thermodynamics called entropy. Did I mention I'm a science teacher, sir? And you don't know why these things are going to be here tomorrow, unchangingly so you can make the same stupid comments one more time. So you don't know. You're just making a circular claim and claiming victory. Do you know how ignorant that is, sir?
So I'll answer again. Like, reality is reality today, and it will be reality tomorrow.
Okay, have a nice day.
And so that proves that whatever laws constitute reality.
All I gotta say.
Wait. So if that proves that whatever laws constitute the fundamental nature of reality will always be there today, tomorrow, forever. Not all the laws of physics are going to be there forever, and as the second law isn't always going to be the case, it does change. That's actually one of the major theories in physics presented by Sean Carroll, that entropy reverses at the Big Bang. So no, it's one of the things that can change. The first law can't change, which is energy cannot be created or destroyed, not even by God. That's kind of the point. So yeah, we can know the laws of logic and nature and reality are going to be the same because reality is reality, and it's always going to be reality. So there are always going to be some fundamental laws, a part of reality, that are unchanging. That's basic logical deduction. It's pretty simple.
Sir, once again, you're not answering the question. All I've got to do now is say, hey, God is God. I win the argument, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're using vicious circularity in order to claim a victory. You have not answered the question. You have not even attempted to address the question on what causes these laws. I'm sorry, sir. You're talking over me.
Well, yeah,
I'm just going to mute you and continue.
I'd like to.
Again, sir, you're not even attempting to answer the question because you have no answer to the question. Your materialist worldview cannot explain why these laws exist, why they don't change over time, and why they're going to be here tomorrow. So once again, sir, I'm asking you for a justification for your evidence. You don't seem to know what truth is. You seem to conflate truth with belief. So since you can't understand what truth versus belief is, we need to address what evidence is. Evidence requires time, space, and matter, and the laws of nature that make it work. So where do those laws come from? Why do they not change over time? And why are they going to be here tomorrow? Just saying reality is reality. It's viciously circular. And all I've got to do to win that argument, sir, is just say, hey, guess what? God is God, and I win.
So again, you'd have to show how is that viciously circular. Explain how saying reality is viciously circular. Could reality not be reality? Is that a possibility?
I'm sorry, sir. Where does reality come from? Would you agree that reality is comprised of time, space, and matter?
Where does reality has always been there? Reality has never not been there. Doesn't come from anywhere.
No, sir. Reality had a beginning and will have an end. All time, space, and matter had a beginning and will have an end. Are you not familiar with the second law of thermodynamics?
I am familiar, and I'm also familiar with the first law, which says energy cannot be created or destroyed. Reality didn't have a beginning.
Cannot be created or destroyed now. See, that's the
where is
problem.
that?
We
where
see
is that?
energy that's actually changing over time. We actually see energy changing over time. Matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed now, but we know it had a beginning because it decays over time. Something wound it up to the least amount of entropy so it could wind down to maximum amount of entropy. You might want to Google this, sir. It's called heat death or thermal equilibrium. It's a very simple experiment. If you take a hot cup of coffee, put it in the middle of your coffee table, come back 3 hours later, what happens? The coffee is almost the same temperature as the room. The longer those two things are in the same environment, the closer they will come to
question. I got a question for you, Ben.
No measurable difference between the two. Because we have measurable temperature differences throughout our universe, we know the universe could not have been here an infinite amount of time in the past, or there would be no temperature differences between things. Now, once again, time, space, and matter, reality, I've got to
get like questions in here.
Reality is comprised at least of time, space, and matter. Minimally speaking, not only do you have to have time, space, and matter, but you have to have the laws of logic and laws of nature, which dictate how time, space, and matter works. So, in order for you to have reality, you have to have time, space, and matter, and it had a beginning. So what caused time, space, and matter to begin, sir? I can help you with that if you like. That would be a timeless, spaceless, immaterial, all-powerful, all-knowing, loving, living, logical lawgiver, Elohim. That's the title of the God of the Bible.
You got to shorten your statements here. So you said that the second law of thermodynamics, are you saying that it destroys energy, that energy goes down, it's destroyed, there's less energy in the universe?
No, sir, it changes over time. It goes from a state of workable, usable energy to no workable, usable energy. Heat transfer, so thermal equilibrium.
So the energy's always there.
No temperature differences. Once you come to complete thermal equilibrium, you have no available energy. You don't need to explain this. You don't need to explain this.
So energy has never destroyed. It's always been there. It's never gone away. It's just the workable energy changes, but the energy is always there.
It had a beginning because something wound it up to the least amount of entropy so it could wind down to maximum entropy.
The motion
Would you agree that we witness, this is one of the most well-established laws of nature that we are aware of, that everything...
Batman, so you said that the workable energy had a beginning, so it was wound up like a spring, but the spring was already there. It always existed. So someone started the motion of it, but the spring existed. So the energy was always there. It never had a beginning. The workable energy had a beginning. That's why the first law says energy cannot be created or destroyed, period. There's no now at the end. You added that in. That's not in physics. So if energy cannot be created or destroyed, that means the energy was always there. So yes, something wound it up. That is true. But that doesn't mean it had a beginning. So where are you getting this idea that energy was created? Because that's nowhere in physics. That is not one of the laws of physics. That's against one of the laws of physics.
Actually, sir, what I'm talking to you about is that because we know that all time, space, and matter will have a death, it's called heat death. You might want to Google that term. Google is your friend. And you know what, sir? Once you Google that, you'll find out that something wound it up to the least amount of entropy so it could wind down to maximum entropy. No more available energy left for work.
I just stated that.
Now,
so I agree with
since that is the case, I'm sorry, sir, I don't give a crap what you agree with. You're too stupid to have this conversation, number one. Now, since, again, we see that everything in the physical world had a beginning. Now, what caused it to begin?
Wait.
What causes the laws that dictate how time, space, and matter works reality, even if reality didn't have a beginning? Let's go ahead and run with your little scenario here, sir. What causes the laws that dictate how reality works? What causes laws of logic? The law of identity, non-contradiction, excluded middle. What causes laws of mathematics?
They're a part
What
of the.
causes laws of physics, chemistry, biology,
Can I
cause
answer?
and effect? What causes those laws to be in place? What causes those laws not to change over time? And what's going to cause those laws to be here again tomorrow? Even if we ran with your little scenario that the universe had already been here, which is obviously not the case, because we would be at thermal equilibrium. You just might want to Google those terms.
So it's a part of the nature of reality. So the reason those laws are here and are unchanged is because they are a part of the nature of reality. And like I mentioned before, I agree.
I'm sorry, sir.
Wait, don't interrupt. So I agree that yes, the workable energy had a beginning at the Big Bang, but that doesn't mean energy had a beginning. That means workable energy had a beginning. That's why the first law says energy cannot be created or destroyed, period. So it doesn't say now. Nowhere in physics does it say that. So it just says it cannot be created or destroyed, and then the workable entropy decays. So no, not everything in the universe did have a beginning. The energy didn't have a beginning. Only the workable energy did. So where are you getting this idea that the energy had a beginning when that's literally a contradiction to the first law of thermodynamics? Like if you're using the second law, then you should also use the first. Or are you just picking and choosing the laws that you like?
I am using both laws, sir. Now, here's the problem with your mentality. Again, the physical world cannot be the cause of these laws because we have the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics declares that everything is decaying over time. Something that is constantly changing, constantly decaying over time cannot be the cause of something that never changes over time. Oh my goodness. Were you able to write that little note down? Now, once again, sir, since the physical world cannot be the cause of these laws that don't change over time, such as laws of physics, chemistry, biology, thermodynamics. Now, since the physical world cannot be the cause of these things, what causes these laws to exist so you can have reality, so you can claim to have any evidence whatsoever for any claim that you happen to make? What causes these laws to be here again tomorrow, unchangingly so?
There's a part of reality laws that are unchanging. They're fundamental to
Have
reality.
a nice day. I'm just done talking to this idiot.
Okay. So Batman did not answer my question about how fallibilism is an insufficient definition of knowledge. He apparently doesn't know that the first law says energy cannot be created or destroyed, and doesn't know how science works. I'm very confused right now. I think he needs to like explain things
42
more.
minutes of a waste of my life.
Like he makes these claims that it's not knowledge and that you're wrong, but he doesn't actually seem to explain how, which is kind of the important part in the debates. You can't just say you're wrong.
42 minutes of a waste of my life for you to say reality is reality. You know, and all I got to say is, hey, God is God. I win because God is trumps reality. It's like rock, paper, scissors.
God trumps reality?
Like, God is bigger than reality, so God wins. Guess what?
God's
There
bigger
you go.
than reality?
Argument over. No, you have no evidence for any claim that you're making. You're willingly ignorant. You don't know the difference between belief and knowledge, and you are conflating the two, so you can declare that all time, space, and matter is an emergent property.
Could you tell me about
that? That is your religious dogmatic belief system. Have a nice day, sir. I'm done talking to you.
Could you tell me about the beginning of reality again? Like, how did reality have a beginning? Where's this beginning to reality? Was God not in reality when it began? I'm guessing that's the case, because if reality had a beginning, then God wasn't in it, which means he didn't exist. So I guess you're admitting I was right if you're admitting that reality must have had a beginning and God wasn't in it. Okay.
Wow,
No
there's
God.
a lot of people in here.
So you're going to respond to any of my points that destroyed you, Batman? Is that no? You're just going to avoid them? I think he muted me, so I don't think he can hear
Mr.
me.
Batman, do you have TJump muted?
Yes, sir, I do. I'm done talking to that idiot since he doesn't know what truth is, he doesn't know what knowledge is, and he doesn't know what science is. You know what? That idiot is just beyond repair. And if I would continue, it would be casting my pearls before swine, and I'm not going to do that. Have a nice day, sir. Repent or perish, you're on your way to hell. Next.
Well, if you two are not really able to continue with the debate, we could move on to questions from the audience if you're all right with that.
That would be fine with me, sir.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, you can just post them in the, I think the debate channel. Would be perfect. I think someone was interested, Tom, in what you were talking about in terms of emergent space-time. Maybe do you elaborate a bit on that?
Sure, emergent spacetime, a theory created by a bunch of different physicists. One of them, Nima Arkani Hammad, and another one is Sean Carroll, where space and time are non-fundamental to reality and they're emergent from some other fundamental physical forces. So I believe it is actually the consensus in physics. I don't have the polls on it, but I think it is the consensus that space-time is emergent and there must be something more fundamental that from which it emerges, which is a different physical property. Nima Arkani Hammad's theory is that it's the amplituhedron. Sean Carroll's is more complicated and I don't understand it. So the consensus in physics is that, yes, space-time isn't fundamental. It emerged from some other physical thing, some other kinds of fields that weren't space and time. Because space and time is a physical thing. It's literally bendable, shapeable object. And so the fact that it came from a different object isn't really all that surprising. The confusion is where people like Batman think that space and time are any change. They're confusing space and time with any kind of change at all, which it's not. It's a very specific kind of change, and there can be other kinds of changes in other kinds of fields that aren't space-time fields. So there's not really it's not too terribly hard to understand that there can be other fields outside of space-time, and those can have other kinds of change that aren't based in those fields of space and time, which are just physical fields, and they only exist in a very specific way as defined in general special relativity. So they don't constitute all philosophical kinds of change, which is the conflation that Batman makes.
All right. We had a question from Mr. Batman from Presto. He asked, does God exist in reality?
Yes, sir. God not only created all time, space, and matter, but he maintains it. See, God is the cause of all the laws that dictate how the physical world works. Laws of logic, laws of physics, the cosmological constants, such as the strong and weak nuclear force, the force of gravity, the force of magnetism, all these are maintained by a lawgiver God who is eternal, universal, and unchanging.
Do you want to comment on that, Tom?
Yeah, I guess reality didn't have a beginning after all, since God's in it, which means reality's bigger than God. Oops.
All right. Phythesis was wondering if he thought there's a difference between truth and reality. I take it maybe this question to both of the participants.
I don't know if Batman. I'll start in case.
Well, who wants to go first?
You still have me muted, Batman? Can you hear me? I'll go first.
Do you still have Tom muted, Mr. Batman?
I have him lowered. Let me go ahead and raise him up so I can hear when he's mumbling.
Okay, yeah. So I just didn't want to talk over each other in case you had me muted. So yeah, I'll start. Truth is that which corresponds to reality. There are also true statements that don't have anything to do with reality, like Harry Potter is a character in a book. So it's just purely an imaginary thing. But yeah, truth is that which corresponds to reality. And so it's just any descriptive term that refers to reality accurately.
All right, Mr. Batman.
Truth is that which comports to reality, observably and testably so. This is your justification. A true statement, in order for you to know that true statement to be true, you must have justification. It must be true so you can believe the truth bearer. When you say, I have a belief does not require justification, and it doesn't require it to be true. Like I said, he believes that there's multiple universes beyond our galaxy, but he doesn't know that to be sure, because in order to know that, you'd have to have scientific evidence to justify that claim. Now, he conflates the difference between belief and knowledge. Why? Because he wants to believe that all time, space, and matter is an emergent property. He wants to believe that these laws of nature that just are simply parts of reality, but wait a minute, reality changes over time. So these laws of nature that don't change over time cannot come from something that is constantly changing over time. But hey, he's more than welcome to believe that all he likes. It's not true and it's not knowledge, but he can believe it all he likes.
So we had a question for Mr. Batman from Shadow 582. What does it mean when you say that God knows something? What is God's knowledge?
Well, God is the justification for all knowledge. Without God, you cannot know anything to be true. You see, we have a justified true belief. That's our form of knowledge. God does not need justification because he is the ultimate justification for all things. Just like he's the ultimate justification for what is good, what is moral. He's the ultimate justification for what is in existence. He is the ultimate justification for all things in that nature. He's the end of your chain of evidence.
But if knowledge is justified true belief and God doesn't require justification, doesn't that just entail that he doesn't have knowledge?
No, sir. He is the justification. He knows all things. We don't know all things. That's why we have to have a justified true belief. God knows all truth propositions. You see, that's why God cannot be wrong, because God knows all truth propositions. If you say something like one finger plus one more finger is always and only two fingers, but then you immediately say, but I could be wrong, then you don't know it. You simply believe it. But we do know that one finger plus one finger is always and only two fingers. Why? Because we have a relationship with the God who knows all things, and he allows us to know certain things so we can know them to be true.
All right. We had a question for Tom from GI Angelo Calvinist. It seems like your view of truth requires abstract objects like propositions. Do you affirm this? And does that undercut materialism?
No, abstract objects don't undercut materialism, because abstract objects are just concepts. But concepts are, again, physical things in the brain. The abstract concept is just like an indexical to describe how that refers to something in our brain. So the abstract objects don't exist. They just refer to something that is a concept in our head.
So they exist or they don't?
They don't exist. It's just a descriptive term of a concept in our head. The concept doesn't refer to anything outside of our head, which is why it's an abstract object.
Right. Someone might ask then what the truth bearers are. Right.
Reality?
You're denying that propositions exist?
Yeah, propositions don't literally exist. They're just sentences. So you can write a sentence, but the sentence doesn't literally exist. And the truth bearer is whether or not the descriptive meaning of the sentence corresponds to reality. Reality is the truth bearer. The truth maker.
All right. Pizza flies easy over the West. Therefore much Batman Harley Quinn. That is that's a statement. That's a sentence that does exist. And it's true that it does exist in the real world in real time. But it's true that it doesn't make any sense. Why? Because I changed the laws of identity. And you can't justify where the laws of identity come from so you can know what any of those things mean. You see, in order for you to have any knowledge whatsoever, you have to have the uniformity of nature. The uniformity of nature is the fact that all of the physical world works under uniform law-like patterns. We call these uniform law-like patterns natural laws, like laws of gravity, magnetism, thermodynamics, and many more. But you can't justify those, and you don't know them to be true. But nice try. Have a nice day.
You changed the laws of identity on me. Woo, that's impressive. You get a Nobel Prize for that one.
All right. Phythesis asked, doesn't energy, neither being created nor destroyed, become a sort of eternal pantheism?
Yeah, that is essentially the consensus in physics, that there has always been a natural thing that's always existed. Most models entail that.
Actually, that's not what physics says at all. As a matter of fact, all physics declares that time, space, and matter had a beginning because we see it decaying over time.
So Sean Carroll, William Lane Craig debate, he literally says this and presents like 17 models that all have this in them.
Irrelevant, sir.
Physics doesn't say this. Here's a physicist with all the physics that literally says this. Irrelevant. Irrelevant.
You've got one physicist that wants to deny the evidence of science. Like I said, irrelevant. William Lane Craig is not much of a debater either, sir. I mean, while he may have lots of knowledge, he doesn't justify his position very well.
It's actually the majority of physicists who accept this. There is a poll called the Attitudes in Contemporary Physics that literally shows this. That's why I said Sean Carroll presented 17 models. Like he didn't make all of those models. Those are from lots of different people in physics who all created these models. That the consensus in physics has nothing to do with the God. I mean, again, he literally says this. If you ask most cosmologists, they're all going to say the Big Bang has nothing to do with the God. It's like an actual quote from Sean Carroll in that debate. Yes.
Then where does time, space, and matter come from, and how do you know that?
Emergent space-time, and because knowledge doesn't require certainty.
There we go again. There's your belief system coming right to its ugly head again. Next.
Oh no, physics. Oh no, what are we going to do?
All right, I'll get another question from Maximum Megaminx. This is for Mr. Batman. How can you know anything about outside reality with unwavering certainty?
Because God wants us to know him. He's made us to know him in an unwavering, undeniable way. If you go look at Romans chapter 1, starting at verse 18, it says, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and wickedness of men, who by their wickedness suppress the truth." What truth might that be? The truth about God. "For what can be known about God is plain to them." Who's them? Everybody. "Because God has shown it to them." Everybody. "Namely, his eternal power, his divine nature," hold on to this one, "his invisible attributes have been clearly seen, clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world and everything that has been made, so that you and I have no excuse." Here's the problem. How do you make your eternal attributes, invisible attributes, known to your creation? Well, you make them use them every moment of every day, and they can't explain them without you, like laws of logic, laws of nature, laws that don't change over time in an ever-changing world. You see, you cannot justify where laws of physics come from that don't, that don't ever change in an ever-changing world. We know that water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit every single time based on known parameters such as barometric pressure, humidity, things of that nature.
No, it doesn't.
We know this. And we can change certain parameters, and we can change the boiling point. Well, how do we know that? Because we know exactly how things work. It's called the uniformity of nature. That uniformity of nature also works in the realm of speech and speech patterns. In order for us to know that the words coming out of our mouths mean the same thing that they meant 5 minutes ago, then you have to have uniformity. That is, the word TJump means the same thing that it meant 5 minutes ago. The word Mr. Batman means the same thing that it meant 5 minutes ago. Why? Because we have uniformity of nature, we have the law of identity that never changes over time, and we have the law of non-contradiction and the law of the excluded middle. It's either true that that's your name or it's false that it's your name. So once again, the uniformity of nature is all through the Bible. Genesis chapter 8, verse 22, Hebrews chapter 1. So the God of the Bible explains how you can have eternal, universal, and unchanging laws because he is a lawgiver. Psalm 119, verse 160, it says, "The sum of your word," that's all of it, "the sum of your word is truth, and all of your righteous rulings," that's your laws, "they endure forever." That's why laws endure forever.
So how do you know you're not being deluded by an evil demon?
Because God cannot deny himself, and he is perfectly faithful and perfectly true.
How do you know that you're not being deluded by an evil demon, not God? How do you know?
Because God wants to know. He wants us to know him. He wants us to know that he loves us. Where does love come from, sir? And how do you know that?
Wait, so why couldn't that just be an evil demon messing with your brain?
I'm sorry, sir. An evil demon would want your death. The evil demon would want what's bad for you. God wants what's best for you. God came so you could have life and have it to its fullest, to have its full abundance. You see, God wants you to know him in no uncertain way. And while I'm speaking, I'm going to mute you. Now, once again, sir, you don't know anything. You conflate knowledge with belief, so you don't know what I'm talking about. You can believe whatever you like. But the fact of the matter is, God is a God of communication. In your brain, there are more connections, communication connections, than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. There's transmitter neurons, receiver neurons, and the synapse at which the signal is sent across. So that God wants you to know that he wants to communicate with you. We have a loving God who loved us enough to create us, even though he knew we would sin against him. So, sir, that God wants what's best for us. Jesus said, I have come for you to have life and have it to its fullest. You know what he also said? He said, I put before you this day life and death. That's the Torah. That's his instructions. Blessings and curses. That's his instructions. Life and blessings if you obey the instructions of the Torah. Death and curses if you don't. And you know what? He knows we're not that smart either. And he gives us the answer. He says, choose life.
So again, how do you know that that feeling you have isn't just a demon who placed that feeling?
I don't have a feeling, sir. I have knowledge.
Okay, how do you know that knowledge was just a demon placed that in your
Knowledge
brain?
is a justified true belief, and knowledge only comes from Jesus Christ. All the treasures of wisdom and knowledge are hidden in Yeshua HaMashiach alone. But you don't know that because you don't know what knowledge is. You simply believe things to be true. Next.
So you can't know it's not. You just say it's not. That's right? You just assume it is?
All right, we'll go to a couple more questions and then we'll have some brief closing statements. There was a question from Good Faith for TJump. If your cognitive faculties are a product of random mutation and natural selection, how can any of us ever know anything other than pragmatic truth approximations?
Because no matter how diluted our beliefs could possibly be through evolution, it can't give us all false beliefs. Like evolution couldn't produce a square circle in your imagination, no matter how hard it tried. So the fact that evolution is incapable of making things that are in contradiction with reality gives us some grounds to justify certain beliefs that we have. And based off of those beliefs, we can build off other beliefs and gain knowledge that way. So we start with the certainties like I exist. Reality can't give us that one wrong. No matter how powerful evolution is at giving us delusions, it can't make us believe we exist and be wrong. So we can start with that one and then make logic and math to describe those things and then say there's some difference between our imagination and reality. Like if I imagine a unicorn, I don't see one. And we need some method to differentiate between the two. And we build science off of that. So we can get all of our knowledge just based off of those certain beliefs that evolution can't get wrong, because that I exist and that I can't imagine a round square even if it wanted to. So because evolution isn't capable of giving us entirely false beliefs, we can ground our knowledge in the certain ones that we do have and build off of those. That's how.
I really like how he personifies evolution, like it's his God. I really like that. I didn't know you were a theist, sir.
You're talking about me or the guy who asked the question?
You, sir. You personify evolution. You said it can't create, it can't do certain things, and you personify evolution as if it were an intelligent being. Now, once again, sir, evolution doesn't work. Evolution, actually, we don't ever see anything getting bigger, better, stronger, faster, smarter over time. We always see the opposite. Due to the second law of thermodynamics, everything decays over time. We also have something called genetic entropy. You might want to Google that term too.
Wait, so you're saying that because I said that evolution can't do something, I'm anthropomorphizing it? Like if I said the sun can't move to the left?
You are personalizing it, sir.
Personification.
You are personifying it. That way you're saying that it is some kind of deity, that it has some type of wisdom, it has some type of creative capabilities. You said evolution cannot create. Evolution doesn't create anything. As a matter of fact, you couldn't know anything to be true but just by using evolution. Because evolution is not bound around truth. It's just bound around the next generation. But you can't even get to the next generation because you can't tell me where information comes from. So you can have a self-replicating system. In order to have evolution, you must have mutation. And a mutation only comes from a self-replicating system that's already there, fully functioning, so it can copy that information incorrectly so you can get a mutation. So where did your first fully functional self-replicating system come from so you could get your first mutation?
Batman, saying an object can or cannot do something isn't a personification. It's not personifying, it's personification. Like I could say a tsunami can't think. That doesn't mean it's
actually said you said it couldn't create.
Yes.
You said you kept saying it couldn't create.
That means it's not like a person, so it can't do what a person can do.
Okay,
so
you don't worship it.
Opposite of personification.
Okay. Have a nice day. Next.
All right. I think at that point, unless you guys want to continue taking questions, we can move on to just some brief closing statements, if that's all right.
I'm fine with that.
Sounds good.
All right. Mr. Batman, do you mind going first?
Not at all. Well, once again, I think I've shown quite concisely that Mr. TJump conflates the difference between belief and knowledge. Knowledge is certainty. Knowledge is justified true belief. And if you can't know it to be true, then it is simply a belief. And you can believe in anything you like, just like he believes in emergent properties of space-time. We've never seen that. That's not science. He doesn't like science, apparently. So, once again, he made all these evidentiary claims, but he cannot even explain where evidence comes from. All evidence exists within inside of time, space, and matter, and requires laws of nature which dictate how time, space, and matter works. But wait a minute. He can't tell me where laws of nature come from either. He says reality is just reality, and he doesn't even understand why that's vicious circularity. Wow, that's really crazy. Then he's going to talk about neurology, free will, geology, age of the earth, abiogenesis, and evolution. Well, we know evolution doesn't work because evolution requires something to drive it, and it has no driving force. As a matter of fact, if everything you look at in evolution shows that we are not evolving into a bigger, better, stronger, faster, smarter organism, we are decaying over time. It's called genetic entropy. We will come to a point in the near future of genetic catastrophe where our organism, our life form, will no longer be able to reproduce. That's not too far in the distant future. So once again, boys and girls, I think I've shown very concisely that the God of the Bible is a God of communication and a God of love. He wants you to know who he is because he communicates with you through everything in the physical world. Everything in the physical world declares that he is. All time, space, and matter requires a timeless, spaceless, immaterial, all-powerful, all-knowing, loving, living, logical lawgiver Elohim. That's the God of the Bible. And that God of the Bible, you know him. The question is not do you know him, but does he know you through every thought, word, and deed? You need to repent. You need to study your Bible and see what God wants for your life because he has life and has it to its fullest, and he wants to give that to you. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day. Repent or perish, and be sure and visit my website at mrbatman.com.
All right, and Tom?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the opening, apparently none of the scientists who are doing science in literally every scientific field know what science is because they all agree with my definition that knowledge doesn't require certainty. And everyone in physics, the consensus in physics is God has nothing to do with the Big Bang. The consensus in neurology is there's no free will, no soul. Consensus in biology is that evolution and abiogenesis are the predominant theories. So apparently everyone in science doesn't know how to do science except Mr. Batman does. He should help the scientists out, like do some discovering of some stuff, make some technological breakthrough that we haven't made yet. If he's the only one who knows how to do science and none of the scientists do, it would be pretty impressive. But I'm still waiting for his answer. I couldn't really understand how my definition of knowledge that everyone in philosophy and science uses is incorrect. He didn't really explain that. He just kind of said, that's not knowledge. I mean, that's a great argument. I love it. I'll just use that one on precepts from now on. It's fantastic. Still also waiting to know how God is bigger than reality, yet God is in reality along with the other things that are also in reality. That I don't think that works quite so well. Like, did God not exist in reality? Because I think that's what it means. Also, still waiting for his explanation about how the scientists in physics who literally posit emergent spacetime as a theory in science aren't doing science. I don't get it. They must be using some kind of new novel definition of science that I haven't heard of yet. So yeah, I don't think Mr. Batman showed anything about evidence or of any kind. He's just kind of using words in a way they aren't used anywhere in any academic field. And somehow I think he's stringing them together. Like most of what he said can be summed up in that one phrase he gave where he said he changed the law of identity. Like if you could do that, that's pretty impressive. If he could do that, that would be evidence of a God, change the law of identity. But pretty much what he said in that statement is about as coherent as everything he said in the entire debate. And thanks for having me on. Thanks for the Veritas Forum for hosting this. Appreciate the comments and the questions. Peace out.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Batman and TJump, for participating. Thanks for everyone else for listening and asking your questions. That will be the end of the debate. I think we will move to, for whoever wants to another channel for open discussion. But that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, everyone go down to general or atheist helpline, whatever channel you want. Let's go.